I'd have to agree with Rodman. If he was black, he'd be just another good guy.
Let me tell you the real reason players feared Larry.
Isaiah Thomas once brushed him off as just a basic white boy, but Magic knew better. Larry Bird was something else entirely. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, and he didn't need to jump out of the gym. He was calculated, cold, the kind of competitor who could break down the league's toughest enforcers with nothing but footwork, trash talk, and a stare that made you question yourself. This was a man who would switch to his left hand just to prove a point, just to entertain himself. And behind all the legend sits a brutal twist. From the 13-ton gravel accident at his mom's house that quietly derailed his body, to the 1991 phone call that showed Bird was the one person Magic Johnson trusted when everything felt uncertain. To understand why the entire NBA feared him, you have to go back to the beginning, to the first game that set the tone for everything that followed. Magic Johnson did not walk into the early 80s thinking he could coast. In fact, he had a habit that tells you everything about how serious this rivalry was. Every single morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before practice, he grabbed the newspaper and searched for one thing: Larry Bird's box score. Not as a fan, not out of curiosity, it was strategy. He measured his own performance against Bird's numbers before the day even started. That is obsession. That is respect mixed with fear. Magic was structuring his mindset around what Bird did the night before, almost like a soldier studying an opponent he already knew was dangerous. This wasn't casual competition. This was war in suits and sneakers. Rewind to 1979, the NCAA Division I championship game, Michigan State versus Indiana State, Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird. Over 35 million people tuned in. That game is still the most watched college basketball game ever. Let that sink in. The country was locked in because it wasn't just basketball. It was story versus story. Bird, the small-town kid from French Lick, Indiana, dragging an underdog program into the spotlight. Magic, the confident leader from Michigan State, smiling, flashy, built for the big stage. Grit versus glamour. Rural versus urban. Quiet killer versus showman. It had every sports storyline you could imagine, and somehow it lived up to all of it. Michigan State won 75-64. Magic put up 24 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. On paper, he outplayed Bird, but that is not the part that stuck. What stuck was Bird's presence. He did not look rattled. He did not look overwhelmed. People who were there said he looked like he was processing everything 5 steps ahead, like the loss was just information he would use later. That unsettled Magic. Bird had averaged nearly 29 points and 15 rebounds that season. He carried a program nobody talked about and made it matter. And even in defeat, he looked dangerous. Magic later admitted Bird was the one player who made him nervous before tip-off. Think about that. The man who would transform the NBA admitted another player got in his head. Then they both entered the NBA at the exact moment the league needed saving. Ratings were low. Finals games were sometimes shown on tape delay. The league lacked electricity. Magic joined a loaded Lakers squad with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Norm Nixon, a team ready to win immediately. Bird walked into a Celtics team that had gone 29-53. That is not a small rebuild. That is a mess. And in his rookie season, Bird averaged 21 points and 10 rebounds.
Boom! Bust the door open, walk around. You might do a little something. Nah, you ain't got, nah, you shot yourself out in warm-up. Talking about Leon Wood. He said, nah, you shot yourself out. Who come to second?
Boston jumped from 29 wins to 61, a 32-win improvement. One rookie flipped the entire energy of a franchise without highlight dunks or viral plays. He did it with fundamentals, angles, footwork, passing vision, and a level of confidence that made defenders feel exposed. The Rookie of the Year race made it personal. Magic put up 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists on a stacked team. Bird led his team, controlled games on both ends, and took the award. Magic noticed. What started as hype turned into something sharper, psychological. Players can live with being outjumped. They can live with someone being faster. What they struggle with is someone who reads their mind, who shrinks the court, who makes them feel predictable. Bird did that early. He made opponents feel seen. Every mistake felt magnified. Every weakness felt obvious. And it didn't stop at the stat sheet. Coaches built scouting reports around him. Teammates talked about him constantly. Magic planned for him like a final exam that never went away. Every matchup had layers beyond the scoreboard. By the time the Celtics were contenders again, this wasn't just a rivalry. It was a mental chess match that lived in practices, in locker rooms, in the quiet moments before games. Magic wasn't just competing against Bird. In many ways, he was chasing him. And that shadow followed him long before the rest of the world fully understood what was happening. What Bird did next, on the court, off the court, and inside the minds of everyone around the league, took this rivalry to another level. By the mid-'80s, it was clear this wasn't just about stats anymore. The rest of the NBA slowly realized they weren't just facing a great shooter. They were facing a man who treated games like psychological experiments. And once that clicked, the fear spread fast. Most players talk trash to hype themselves up. It is noise. It is emotion. It is, you can't guard me energy. With Bird, it was different. It felt planned. He would tell you exactly what he was about to do, where he was going to stand, how he was going to score, and then he would do it exactly like he said. No drama, no surprise, just execution. And that is the trap. If a man tells you the plan and you still cannot stop it, that hits your pride. It makes you question yourself. It makes you feel exposed in front of everyone watching. The first time the entire league really saw this mind game on full display was the 1986 three-point contest. It was the first year the event even existed. The best shooters in the world were in that locker room. Craig Hodges, Dale Ellis, guys who built their reputations on the deep ball. Everyone was locked in, focused, nervous. Then Bird walks in, calm, barely even warming up, looks around the room and says, "So, which one of you is coming in second?" He was not joking. He genuinely believed the result was already decided. He walked out there, still in his warm-up jacket, and won the whole thing. On the final rack, he let the money ball fly and did not even turn to watch it drop. He already had his finger in the air. He was walking toward the trophy before the net even snapped. That kind of confidence messes with people. It makes you feel like you are playing in someone else's movie. Then came 1985 against the Atlanta Hawks. Bird dropped 60 points, but the number is not even the wildest part. It was how he did it. He was talking to defenders, calling his shots, treating the court like his personal stage. At one point, he told the Hawks bench he was about to hit a shot and land in the trainer's lap. Next possession, he drills a tough fading three, gets fouled, and falls directly into the trainer's lap. The Hawks bench players, the same guys trying to beat him, were jumping up in disbelief. Their own coach, Mike Fratello, fined them the next day for reacting to Bird's show. Imagine dominating so badly that your opponent's bench forgets who they are supposed to be rooting for. If that was not enough, in 1986, before a game against the Portland Trail Blazers, Bird told teammates he was bored with being the best right-handed player in the world. So he said he was going to play most of the game left-handed. And he did. He finished with 47 points, a triple-double, and scored a big chunk of those points with his left. When reporters asked why he would even try something like that, he simply said he was saving his right hand for the Lakers. No smile, no big speech, just a statement. That is cold.
Trouble is once he's like, "Reggie, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. Reggie, are you kidding me? I'm the best shooter this game has ever seen. You think you're gonna be able to ice me?" As he's talking. Next one, wow.
Larry Bird talking to you saying, I'm the best man down to put a three into my balls. That's true?
It is very true. So, I look in the mirror, I'm like, well,
Jordan, Magic, Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Jerry West.
People love comparing Bird to Michael Jordan, but the way they hunted was different. Jordan attacked you physically. He would explode past you, rise over you, push his body to the limit. Bird attacked your thinking. He wanted you doubting yourself before the ball even left his hands. Look at the Xavier McDaniel moment. Late in a tight game, Bird points to a spot on the floor and tells Xavier, one of the toughest defenders in the league, "I'm gonna stand right here and hit it in your face." Xavier plays perfect defense. Bird still gets to the spot, hits the fadeaway, and as he runs back, he says, "I didn't mean to leave 2 seconds on the clock." That is not just scoring, that is control. And here is what nobody expected. Even the Detroit Pistons, the so-called bad boys, the roughest crew in the league, started to feel it. Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, guys who tried to intimidate everyone. They could knock you down. They could make it physical. But Bird was not playing their game. You cannot shove someone out of a mental space they already own. And that is when it became obvious. This was not just about talent. This was about a player who lived inside your head long after the buzzer sounded. Isaiah Thomas later admitted that Bird's presence created real panic. Not nerves, not pressure, panic. And that panic led to one of the most replayed moments in NBA history. Game 5 of the 1987 Eastern Conference Finals. 5 seconds left, Detroit up by 1. They had the ball, the series was sitting right there. All Isaiah had to do was inbound it cleanly, and the Pistons likely go up 3-2. Simple, routine, basic execution. But nothing felt routine when Bird was on the floor. Bird had been lurking all night, reading passing lanes, baiting mistakes, making everyone second-guess their instincts. Isaiah rushed the inbound. Instead of a sharp, safe pass, he floated a soft lob toward Bill Laimbeer. And Bird was already there. He stepped in like he had seen the script beforehand, stole the ball, and immediately fired it to Dennis Johnson for the game-winning layup. Just like that, momentum flipped. That one moment changed the series, and it started with fear. After that humiliation, frustration spilled out. Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman went to the media and said, if Bird were black, he'd be just another guy. That comment still echoes. It was raw, it was emotional, it sounded like wounded pride. Because deep down, they knew what really happened. They had been outplayed mentally. Years later, when Magic Johnson was asked about that statement, he did not co-sign it. He did not protect feelings. He basically said they were wrong. Magic understood something most people missed. Bird was not good for a white guy. He was a basketball genius who happened to be white. Period. Magic competed against him at the highest level. He knew the difference between hype and reality. Bird was reality. Even as the league got younger and more athletic, Bird's mental grip never faded. In 1987, rookie Reggie Miller tried to chirp at him while Bird stood at the free throw line. Bird stopped, looked at him, and said, "Rook, you've got to be kidding me. I'm the best shooter in the league right now. Understand?" Then he calmly drained the shots. No extra motion, no theatrics. Just a reminder of hierarchy.
And you know what? I hate Larry Bird, but I respect the hell out of that man because I went against him in all those championships.
I wasn't a fan of Larry Bird because I thought everything he did was lucky. You know, when I started, getting older and seeing some guys put in work, he is one of the greatest players ever, and it's not me. It's all skill.
Calls me, we're talking. It's just, how you doing? I heard about it, and you can almost hear both of us with some tears in our eyes, and I'm choked up because he did call me.
In 1991, Shawn Kemp was rising. Explosive, powerful, a human highlight reel. Meanwhile, Bird's back was already betraying him. He was playing through pain that most players would not tolerate for a week, let alone a season. And still, he looked at Kemp and told him, "I'm the best player from Indiana, not you." Then he went out and proved it. Kemp has talked about that matchup for years. Because it was not just about scoring, it was about dominance of presence. And this is why Michael Jordan called him the new sheriff when he entered the league. Jordan saw it immediately. Magic saw it earlier. Bird did not overwhelm you with speed or vertical leap. He overwhelmed you with inevitability. He made outcomes feel predetermined. Even Kobe Bryant studied him. Kobe ranked Bird in his top 5 all time, not just because of numbers, but because of that cold mindset. The "I will tell you exactly how this ends" energy. If you watched Kobe closely, you could see the blend. Jordan's physical edge, Bird's brain, that calm prediction before execution. But here's the part that makes the story heavier. While Bird was controlling games and intimidating stars, his body was quietly breaking down. The back issues were not minor, they were severe. And it traces back to something almost unbelievable, a driveway project at his mother's house that involved moving gravel by hand instead of paying for professional help. A decision that reportedly cost around $20 to avoid. That choice led to lasting damage that followed him for the rest of his career. Before we even get into that twist, look at the resume. 3 championships, 3 MVP awards, 12 All-Star selections, 9 straight All-NBA first-team honors. He did all of that while battling pain most people would never see on camera. The fear he created was not hype. It was earned. And it lasted far beyond the box score. He built his legacy in an era that felt like a televised bar fight. 3 NBA championships, 12 All-Star selections, Rookie of the Year, which he took right out of Magic Johnson's hands, and 3 straight MVP awards in 1984, 1985, and 1986. That kind of run does not happen by accident. Only 2 other players in league history have won 3 MVPs in a row, Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. That is elite company. That is rare air. And this was not happening in a soft, friendly era. This was the 80s. No hand-checking rules protecting you. No wide-open lanes every possession. This was the age of enforcers. Maurice Lucas, who looked like he would rather send you to the floor than give up a layup. The Detroit Pistons turning every series into a wrestling match. Hard fouls were part of the strategy. Intimidation was real. If you drove into the paint, you paid for it. Right in the middle of that chaos stood Larry Bird. Tall, not explosive, not built like a superhero. A guy from French Lick, Indiana, who looked like he was moving through sand compared to the athletes around him. On paper, he should not have dominated that environment, but he did, and that is what made it unsettling. Ask Michael Cooper about it. Cooper was the defensive specialist for the Showtime Lakers. Long, quick, disciplined. He built a career on guarding the best scorers in the world. Bird himself once called Cooper the toughest defender he ever faced. Yet Cooper has openly said he hated guarding Bird, not because of the jump shot alone, because of the mind behind it. Cooper has described Lakers team meetings where Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and coach Pat Riley would sit down trying to solve what they called the Bird problem. That tells you everything. Entire game plans built around one player. And even when you defended him perfectly for 23 seconds, he would find a passing angle or a backdoor cut in the final second that should not have been there. It felt like he was calculating options faster than everyone else could process them. That brain did not come from nowhere. It was built in Indiana. Bird grew up with very little. He wore the same clothes to school. His family struggled to pay bills. Basketball was not just recreation, it was survival. It was a way out. That hunger showed in the way he played. Every possession felt personal. When he led Indiana State to the 1979 national championship game, it was a Cinderella run that no one expected. A small program from a tiny town on the biggest stage in college basketball. Over 35 million people watched that game. A kid from a town of about 2,000 people had the entire country locked in. That kind of journey hardens you. It gives you perspective. It gives you edge. Even Pat Riley, who coached the Lakers dynasty and saw greatness up close, made a statement that says everything. He once said, "If I had to pick one person to take a shot to win a game, I'd choose Michael Jordan. But if I had to pick one person to take a shot to save my life, I'd choose Larry Bird." That is not casual praise. That is trust at the highest level. Bird earned that reputation in the toughest environment imaginable. Not because he was the fastest, not because he jumped the highest, but because in a league full of physical monsters, he was the one thinking 2 moves ahead every single time. Yeah, that is how deep the fear ran. But here is the real question. How does a guy who did not look explosive, who did not look built in a lab, make the most elite athletes on the planet look lost? On paper, Larry Bird should not have been dominating freakish defenders and high flyers. But on the court, he broke them down piece by piece.
One lie. You only told me one lie in your career.
Pretty good.
Only one. And you only lied to the fans and all the people in the world one time. And you know what that lie was? You don't remember, do you? Larry Bird said that there would be another Larry Bird one day. And Larry, there will never, ever, ever be another Larry Bird. And so, I don't care how many people, how many players, there will never, ever be another Larry Bird. So, you take that to the bank.
There was a formula to it, cold, precise. Sports psychologists talk about something called the knockout effect. The moment Bird told you exactly where he was about to score from, he was not just flexing. He was planting doubt. Basketball at that level is instinct. You react, you move, you trust your body. But when Bird looked you in the eye and said, "I'm gonna stand right here and hit it in your face," he forced you to think. The second you think, you are late. The second you hesitate, he is already rising into his shot. Then there was what you could call the 3-inch rule. Most stars need to blow past you, create separation with speed or power. Bird did not need that. He needed 3 inches, a slight lean, a tiny shift in your balance. He mastered the step back long before it became a highlight staple. He picked up the move from teammate Terry Duarad, a bench player most people barely remember. But Bird refined it into a weapon. A small shoulder fake, a subtle head twitch. The moment your weight drifted the wrong way, even slightly, he stepped back and the ball was gone. He was not battling your speed, he was attacking your center of gravity. And then came the bait and punish system. Most superstars hate double teams. They rush, they force shots. Bird wanted the double. He would post up in spots that looked tempting, almost inviting help defense. The second that extra defender committed, he would fire a pass to a cutter or a shooter with perfect timing. He saw the court like a map. Angles most players never even noticed were obvious to him. Guarding him felt like trying to plug holes in a sinking boat, but the ego factor made it even heavier. The media labeled him the Great White Hope. That branding created tension. It suggested his success was tied to narrative, not just talent. For players grinding every night, that built resentment. Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman. They were giving everything to the game and watching this guy who did not look like the prototype get constant praise. After the 1987 playoffs, Rodman publicly said Bird was overrated and only won MVPs because he was white. Years later, he doubled down, claiming Bird would not survive in the modern era. The reality is more complex. Bird was not protected by hype. He backed it up. And that truth was hard for competitors to swallow. The sad twist is that his toughness, that country pride, is also what cost him. In 1985, instead of hiring workers, Bird decided to shovel 13 tons of gravel himself to build a driveway for his mother. He was a multimillionaire, a reigning MVP, and he chose to grind through manual labor to save a small amount of money. That decision damaged his back in ways that never fully healed. Doctors later said that moment shifted his spine and started a chain reaction. By the time the 1992 Dream Team gathered in Barcelona, Bird was fighting constant nerve pain. While Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson were soaring through practices, Bird often lay flat on the floor behind the bench because sitting upright hurt too much. Yet he still competed. He still earned that gold medal, but he knew the end was near. When he walked away, the torch passed into the hands of players who studied him. His influence did not retire with him. Shaquille O'Neal once admitted that early on he thought Bird was just a lucky shooter hyped by media. Then Shaq studied the film, the angles, the footwork, the timing, and even the most physically dominant force of his era had to admit Bird was one of the greatest ever. As fear slowly turned into respect, something unexpected happened. The rivalry with Magic evolved. For a decade, they were enemies. Lakers versus Celtics. Showtime versus grit. But in 1991, when Magic announced he had HIV, the first call he received was from Bird. Not a teammate, not an executive, Bird. That call shifted everything. For the first time, they were not symbols of franchises. They were two men who understood the weight of being faces of a league. Magic later said that when people were treating him like he was already finished, Bird treated him like a human being. That loyalty meant more than any trophy. At Bird's jersey retirement, Magic stood there wearing a Celtics shirt under his Lakers jacket. He looked at Larry and spoke from the heart. The rivalry was real. The respect was deeper. And in the end, the Birdman was not just feared. He was the blueprint for how to win with your mind when your body is not the loudest in the room.